Okay, shalom, shalom. Kwam Yasha'Allah, Kohaloyim La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachach, Hadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and that by the Spirit taught us this beautiful truth. I just want to say the water toward the Akim and Akhwa. That's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai to the best of their ability. This is Yahna Nawach. Just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. And this young lady right here, from what I'm reading, she's Northern Kingdom. Not sure exactly what tribe she would be from, but it appears that she's Northern Kingdom as far as what I'm reading here. But the point of the article is it says DNA test kits spark a surge of online conversion to Judaism in the U.S., right? Okay, it says Angie Claudio Rodriguez was raised Catholic, but felt a deep connection to Judaism she never understood. Throughout her life, family members told her different things about her heritage. Claudia Rodriguez, 52, some said were Irish, others insisted were Native Americans, and still others said were from Mexico. Well, either one of those particular regions, Israelites are scattered to. Deep scattered, especially Northern Kingdom. Irish, I would say, probably more than likely more Southern Kingdom. You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you are Israelites. And now, let me just get a little bit more. But no, let me address this part right here, because she says she was raised Catholic, but felt a deep connection to Judaism she never understood. So let me just grab one scripture real quick, because it just reminds me of that step one. I think it's in Peter. Where is it? Nope, it's Romans. Salakia. Romans 10 and 2. Matter of fact, let me start at verse 1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Yahweh for Israel is that they might be saved. Because this truth is only for Israel. The elect of Israel are the only ones that's going to get this truth. There's no such thing as a spiritual Israelite, a spiritual Israeli. You can convert to Judaism. Now, in the kingdom, they're going to keep the laws. So that's going to be like somewhat of a point of Judaism, so to speak, but they're going to be these other nations. They're going to keep our laws, statutes, and commandments. They're going to keep the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Now, the Israelites, those law, statutes, and commandments, according to the new covenant, are going to be written on the minds and hearts of the Israelites. So it's going to be automatic for us. But these other nations, they're going to have to be taught those things. So, of course, they're going to delve into our way of life at that point. But see, these people over in Israel right now, they fool the people into thinking like, just come follow us and you're good. You know what I'm saying? We're come follow our religion of Judaism and everything is going to be okay with you. But this is the point I want to get in verse 2. Romans 10 and 2. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. And that's what's going on with this lady. Like, when she says, let me get what she said back again. She says she was raised Catholic, but felt a deep connection to Judaism she never understood. Because the Israelites have a thirst for Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. They just don't have, the proper knowledge. That's why the men of the Lord go out on the highways and byways and the Lord send them out and teach the proper way of the scriptures. That way the people can actually learn, and whether they hear or forbear, you know what I'm saying? Hey, it's all on them, and it's really on the Lord as to whether or not he wants them to actually get it. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way they're going to get it. It's not like, because you have Christians that'll tell you that they chose the Lord and, I gave my life to the Lord 15 years ago and this, and this. But the scripture says that the Lord is the one that chooses. As a matter of fact, it actually says that many are called, but few are actually chosen. Right? So let's get a little bit more of the article. Okay, so we got that part where it talks about she was basically, she was told that, she was possibly Irish, Native American, and still others said she was from, they was from Mexico. It didn't make sense to me, she said. Things came to a head October 7th, 2023, when Hamas terrorists attacked Israel, killing all that good stuff, right? October 7th was a really tough time for me. She said in an interview from her home in Lancaster, California. Why was this a hard time for her? Because you have hardcore believers. It's real Christians that's out here, that believe in sweet white baby Jesus, which is an idol. And they really believe that those people over there are the people of the Bible. They send all kinds of money. They give their life for them. They'll go and fight these wars for them and all this other stuff because they've been fooled and they've been duped into believing that these are really the people, and they're not. Right? It says that prompted her to do a DNA test, which she ordered on December 29th, 2023. A month later, she learned the truth. So we come on, man. Esau not gonna give you no accuracy when it comes to and this is a faith thing anyway. We're not taking no DNA test to see if we're actually Israelites and what tribe are we from and all that. We're not going by Esau's system of, because I think over in Israel, I don't even think you can take a DNA test. I think it's illegal in the land of Israel to actually take a DNA test. But anyway, she says, my mom is not Native American at all, but from different parts of Mexico, she said, and my dad's mom is Jewish. So what I wanted to do this lesson on when I seen this part, I'm thinking that she's thinking that Jewish mother part that these people be talking about, that you're you can basically you're a Jew if your mother is. It don't make no difference what your dad is, but that goes totally against the scriptures. That goes totally against it goes totally against the scriptures. Let me read that back again. She says, my mom is not Native American at all, but from different parts of Mexico. She said, and my dad's mom. Why is she just saying what her dad is? My dad's mom is Jewish. I had met her, but she only told us that she was Catholic. It was a shock to me. It just was really shocking. I felt like I was lied to my entire life. Okay, so I'm thinking that she's more than likely thinking that she's Jewish because of, her dad's mother, or and that's not biblical. Let's get the scriptures on it. That's really what I wanted to focus on in this particular lesson. Me and the brother, we were supposed to go into a sit down on this at one point. But let me start up here at the top. Numbers. Now this is in the Old Testament, that the 5 books of Moses that the so-called Israelis believe in, right? So why did they come up with the fact that, or why did they come up with this? You're only Jewish if your mother is, basically, and not go by what the scriptures is actually saying. They know full well that all the genealogies in the scriptures, it goes through the man, and they know that. That's why it talks about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. It gives you this whole lineage of men throughout the Old Testament. You know what I'm saying? They might throw a woman in there here or there, but it's rare, like for real, straight up. It's generally because they understand that the seed line goes through the man. Now this is entitled a census of Israel's warriors. Numbers chapter 1. I'm gonna start at verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation, on the first day of the second month, and in the second year, after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Take ye the sum of the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers. Right? Don't say by the house of their mothers. It says by the house of their fathers. Matter of fact, let me get this word fathers. H1, right? Abba, basically, right? Father is in a literal and immediate, or figuratively and remote application, chief, patrimony, principal, right? It's not saying by the house of their mothers. It says by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their poles. It doesn't say every female by their poles, right? So let's get this word male. H2145. Properly remembered, that is a male of man or animal, as being the most Noteworthy sects. See? Age 21 and 42. Let's see what the primary word is. A primitive root properly to mark so as to be recognized. That is to remember, by implication to mention. Be male, mention, be, okay, recount, record. To remember, I mean, well, that makes sense because, you know, your seed line goes through your father. So you will remember, you know, you will have to go back, you know, you remember your father, you know, his father had a father, his father had a father, his father had a father. And when you go into Matthew chapter 1, you get the genealogy of Yahushua, which the word ignorantly calls Jesus. It's the same way. It's naming off all these men of his fathers. And then that's a cut to these Christians that's talking about he was born of a virgin. Because why would he need that long genealogy of men and Joseph wouldn't have actually been his father? See, that Christianity, that Judaism, all that shit, it's a bunch of bullshit, bro. But let's go back in. Okay, so now what it's going to do is it's going to name off the tribes. Verse 3, from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go to war, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel, thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe. It don't say a woman of every tribe. Everyone head of the house of his fathers. Don't say everyone head of the house of his mothers. This is it's really very simple. But those Jewish people, those are the ones that's actually telling you that you're only Jewish by your mother. And that's crazy as fuck, bro. They let you know that these people are imposters. They're liars. And they've changed up the scriptures to fit the bullshit narrative that they are the holy people. Verse 5, it says, and these are the names of the men that shall stand with you. See? The names of the men. It's not saying the names of the women. Of the tribe of Reuben, Eleazar, the son of Shedar. So when you go into it, it's basically just going to name off all the tribes. Simeon, verse 7, you got Judah. Verse 8, you got Issachar. You know, verse 9, you got Zebulun, so on and so forth. Now, let's jump down to verse 18. Verse 18 right here, it says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. Why did they declare their pedigrees after their families by the house of their mothers? Because that's not the way that the Lord created it. The Lord created the man. The seed resides in the man until he has sex with the woman. That seed is plowed into her. That's why, you know, he has sex with her. He pretty much breaks her ground. She's like earth. He plants that seed in her. That earth gives that seed the nutrients that it needs to carry on for those next 9, sometimes even 10 months. These days, hell, it can be a damn preemie, can be born in 2 months in this man's wicked ass kingdom. But the point is when she gives birth to that seed is exactly what that man is, because that seed resided in him to begin with. She has nothing to do with what that seed is. Now the seed can come out looking like her. You know, that's why you have Israelites scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth. It's Israelites that look like Japanese people, Chinese people. If there was an Israelite that slept with one of those women and got her pregnant, and then as time goes on, you know, you lose color, you lose bone structure, you lose height and weight and just the way that an Israelite naturally looked back in the days. You know, and that's another lesson, you know, but you know, the point is, let's get this word pedigree real quick. It's H3205. A primitive root is yalad, to bear young. Yep, to begot. Medically, to act as, what it's saying, a midwife. To show lineage. That's all that it is, man. You know what I'm saying? That the child is going to come from the father. It comes through the seed line of the father. You can't get around that, bro. But let me see something here. I might be able to ask chat something real quick. Let me see what chat has to say. Why do Israelis say that you're Jewish by your mother instead of your father, when the scriptures actually says that your seed line goes through your father? Okay, it's saying there are two different systems you're seeing: biblical lineage, patrilineal, how lineage and tribe is determined in scripture. And then you got number two, rabbinic Judaism, a later rule, matrilineal. See, so they made this up, a tradition that developed long after the Bible. So it's not biblical. That's a straight cut right there. I don't even have to even go no further. I don't even have to go no further. So these people are imposters, bro. They're not the biblical Israelites, and they're not going to tell you about no other tribes anyway. You know, Chat GPT is a little bit biased when it straight comes down to it. It tries to still run with these people's narratives, even though, you know, once you corner it, it's got to give up the real truth. You know what I'm saying? But it'll still kind of leave a little gray area out there where, you know, everybody can be saved. Jesus Christ loves everybody. But it'll actually tell you that none of that shit is true beforehand. Okay, but this, you know, that was the reason why I wanted to do this lesson. This lady is, she obviously got to be thinking that this is about the mother. Okay, so it says, armed with that knowledge, she took an 18-week introduction to Judaism class at the American Jewish University based in Los Angeles and then converted to Judaism. She has visited Israel twice and is now planning to... But this is what it is, man. You know, I just wanted to just do something real quick on this, you know, and we don't have to go no further into this because there's no, you know, no fucking Jewish classes going, you know, like that, you know. As far as we're concerned, we're not going to take any of them, you know. But I mean, in the kingdom, I mean, it's going to be ongoing. This is going to be an ongoing thing of them learning the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, because we're going to beat them into them. They're going to learn our laws, man. They're going to learn our statutes. They're going to learn our commandments, man. And they're going to know exactly who they are, too. It's not going to be no one in the kingdom confused about who they are. You know, all this, these bywords, because basically she named off like 3 or 4 bywords, you know what I'm saying, trying to figure out who the fuck she is, and she still don't know. She's even more confused than ever. And she was talking about further off into the article that, you know, she was talking about her, I think her grandson. She was talking about how she want her grandson to grow up, you know, in Judaism and having his first bar mitzvah, but she's afraid that, I guess, her you know, daughter or son or whoever, they're not going to be with it, so to speak. But anyway, it ain't going to make no difference anyway, you know, because that shit is retarded. It's just stupid, but it's not biblical. None of it is biblical. Everything that Esau is pushing out here is unraveling. And people, you know, people, they trying to figure something out. They just don't know what it is. And the men of the Lord only have that 100% truth, man. Mainly the men of GMS. And the Lord is showing us, you know, who we are. And, you know, we do little simple lessons like this, man, because it's very important. This is like really milk. A lot of people don't understand that, you know, your seed goes through your dad. They really believe that you're actually black. You can be white. You can be an American. You can be Spanish. You can be... None of that stuff is biblical. So we have to break all that stuff down and let the people know, like, no, that's not how it goes, man. There's 18 nations in the scriptures. Everybody got a biblical nationality, and your seed goes through your father, and whatever your father is, that's exactly what you are. Don't make no difference what you look like. Because you have really dark-skinned people out here, you know what I'm saying, that are actually Edomites. You know, you have people that look like black people that are actually so-called white people, for lack of better terms, but they are Edomites. Chocolate color Edomites. Then you got people out here that look like so-called white people, and they're actually so-called black people. I was looking at an article, they was talking about Larry Bird. And, you know, I'm not sure exactly what Larry Bird is, but somebody that looked like Larry Bird, basically it was an article on these two, well, the guys look like Edomites, you know what I'm saying? But they was talking about how, I guess, you know, a couple of little white boys is coming up in the game of the NBA and kind of shining a little bit, whatever. And, you know, Esau, he goes crazy when they got somebody that looks like them that can actually compete with Jake, or actually, you know, so-called black people. And somebody used the example of Larry Bird. And, well, Larry Bird could actually be a so-called black man. Or he could go back to one of the tribes. He could actually be a Gadite or something, or whatever the case may be. But see, you have this misconception in America. A person that looks like he's blonde hair, blue eyed, he automatically got to be a so-called white man. That's not biblical, man. You got to get away from that shit. And this guy, Captain Tazariak, I know the elders was kind of going in on him a couple of lessons as of this past week. A guy called into his show, and he said that he was Italian. And Captain Tazariak, he cut into him and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Basically, he didn't explain to him that he could actually possibly be an Israelite, because the guy, he seemed sincere. He seemed like he was, he sounded like he had worry in his voice, man, like, because he was like, yeah, I'm a Christian, and I've heard you guys speak, and he was just basically trying to find out about salvation, so to speak, but he sounded worried, because he was like, basically, through what you're saying is that there's a possibility that I can't be saved. But he should have explained to that guy, that, hey, you could be an Israelite. If your spirit resonate with these scriptures, you're an Israelite. Don't make no difference what you look like, because there's all different kinds of walks of life, man, that are Israelites, man, and they just don't know because we've been scattered, man. But one thing that they can't shake is the spirit of an Israelite. You can't shake that, like how with this woman, she feels something different. She still don't have a complete truth, but she feels like, she's connected to the scriptures in a certain way that she just can't explain, but she still don't have the truth, and that's the sad part about it. But I just wanted to just chop it up on this real quick. Hey, your seed line goes to your dad, man. So if you're a new believer, you're just newly coming into this truth, you can't look at a person's skin color and just know that, okay, you're that, nah, you have to ask, deal with the spirit, test the spirit, ask them certain questions. You know what I'm saying? Ask them, if they know about their father or their grandfather's lineage, you know what I'm saying? And, once you see some of the history and, because we've been scattered everywhere. It's, Jake everywhere. And if they spirit resonate with these scriptures, and it don't make no difference anyway, because every Israelite, is not, if they're not of the elect, it's not going to matter like that anyway. Because this is only the elect are really going to get it. That's who we're overall fishing for. You got to just deal with the spirit of them, man. Ask them certain questions. Ask them questions about this, about the scriptures. Ask them how do they feel about the captivity of the so-called blacks in America, and what happened to the Gadite. You can kind of pinpoint, and then a lot of them, if they Christians anyway, a lot of hardcore Christians, they just gonna try and argue you down anyway and try and fit everybody into the program. They have no idea. They just don't know the scriptures, man. But you just do the job of the plainness of it. Hey, where you from? Where your father from? What's your dad? You know what I'm saying? You got to leave because mama ain't got nothing to do with it. Anyway, with that, man, I pray that the lesson was edifying. Kwame Shala and a bubble ball.